Hello, everybody. Buddy Web, Midland, Texas. This was a Facebook post I did this morning. I think you're going to find real interesting. I called it Motives for Murder. Short read here. I said the ex-wife moved out and we separated right before New Year's 2012. Without my knowledge, she took my life insurance books with her. I found this out when she brought them back a few weeks later, which was about a week before I was shot with my phone lines cut in a premeditated murder attempt. Corrupt police who are now proven to have been under my home that night falsely labeled me as crazy and ruled this failed murder as an accident. At the time, I was paying for an accidental death policy that added about $500,000 to the regular life insurance policy. This was an act of love on my part. So this meant if her lifelong friend, Detective Rosie Rodriguez, would rule my murder an accident, then she would get rich. Otherwise, she was going to get nothing from a 3-month marriage. It's now proven that Detective Rosie Rodriguez tampered with evidence, falsified police reports, and perjured herself in court while ruling this failed murder an accident, so obviously she was going to rule my murder as one too. I suspect that was the plan. Some people have suggested that the ex-wife brought these books back so she wouldn't have possession of them when her friend ruled my murder an accident. After I survived the murder attempt, I was on the phone. I was talking to my brother's wife, her sister-in-law, Mitzi Webb, and she told me that she saw my insurance books while they were gone from my home. Right? Remember, they were only gone from about December 30th to the middle of January. I'm sure if law enforcement would just ask her, then she would tell them the same thing, confirming what I'm saying, which is the ex-wife took them life insurance books. I don't know why my family was in contact with my ex-wife during this time. I calculated the ex-wife was going to get around $650,000 in cash and assets when my murder was ruled an accident. And most of that was life insurance. But the big prize would have been my home, which has a secret $1 million underground home in the backyard, said to have been put in during the 80s for the Bushes. It was part of a safe house project, which had a budget on permit for $7.35 million, according to Layla O'Brien, who I recorded. Okay. There were other reasons these criminals might want to see me dead, such as the trapped burglar in my guest bathroom on the day of the murder attempt, and possibly revenge for Matt Hyman getting electrocuted in my hallway 2 weeks earlier. I'm going to talk more about that in a minute. Him and his friends had sneaked into my home from the same underground entrance that MPD officers Davis, Dickey, Chatwell, Angel, and Hale used on the night of the murder attempt. It's proven that police were under my home when or on the night that somebody under my home had shot me. Obviously, they know who tried to murder me, and maybe they also know about the life insurance money too. Maybe one of them was the would-be killers. In 2020, the ex-wife's former boyfriend, Arthur Wells, posted on his Facebook that he overheard her planning my murder with her police friends to steal life insurance. I have a screenshot of it. Arthur was called a snitch, and somebody then burned his house down. This lawlessness has to stop. There's plenty of evidence to expose the underground homes and stop this violent crime ring. I have a meme here, and this is taken right off from my insurance books back in 2012, and that was the books that she had taken right here. And these books showed her that I had a basic accidental death and a supplemental accidental death life insurance, and it added 2 times my annual base pay, which was there's about a couple $100,000, and then plus another $250,000 for employee and family, which I was. And then at the bottom here, I'm showing the part of the transcript from the protective order hearing in 2013, and that's when by surprise we found out that Detective Rosie Rodriguez, was lifelong friends with the ex-wife, and they had gone to elementary and junior high together, and they were in contact during that time too. That also come out in court during the time of this murder attempt. I put a couple comments down here, not long ones, but other motives for murder. One other possible motive for murder was the burglar that I'd unknowingly trapped in my bathroom when I tie-wired my spare door shut on the night of the murder attempt. I was on the other side of the door with a gun and never right to protect my life and property, and these are career criminals that have rigged many homes with hidden access for burglary. They broke into my home hundreds of times, and it's now to believe this was going on before I moved here. The last owner was reporting the same crimes before he was before he's suspected of being murdered here. The last guy that lived here. They're killing one homeowner after another. I found these pry marks on the top of the door jamb right there, on the inside door jamb, and that was one of the doors I had tie-wired shut. That's how I knew I'd trapped a burglar in there. And, you know, and I've been reporting these burglaries to the police. Them are felonies, you know, for over a year. And now we know the police were working with the burglars breaking into my home and all the other homes. You know, there's more than a dozen here in Midland, more than a dozen in Odessa, over 50 across the nation, and that's just the ones I found out about. This is a nationwide crime operation. And another possible motive for murder could have been based on revenge, since it's believed that landman attorney Matt Hyman was electrocuted in my hallway 2 weeks before the murder attempt. I had noticed that I was under another home invasion that night, so I quickly built a safe room by placing electricity in my bedroom doorknob. I was scared to death. All of my outside doors were secured with extra locks, so I believe that Matt and his friends came into my home from the same underground entrance used by MPD police officers Davis, Dickey, Chatwell, Angel, and Hale on the night that I was shot. See, proof was that we proved they were under my home that night. They'd come in from an underground entrance. Here's Matt's obituary, and there he died on January 14, 2012, 2 weeks before the murder attempt, of a surprise heart failure, you know. And he was a landman for Choate, and then he was also attorney for Cotton Bledsoe Tie and Dawson. That's the city's law firm too. Natalie Sherry Hyman, he died from a genetic heart defect. This is the sister-in-law of Matt Hyman, and she was my nurse, and she told me, oh, he died from genetic heart defect. Nobody knew he had. And I said, yeah, was he messing with electricity that day? You know, surprise heart failure. Electricity will stop the heart, you know. And then I asked her, what time did he die? Because if he died in the morning, it wasn't him. Always at the same time I had electricity on the doorknob, you know. And then his friends threatened me in a desperate, they were scared to death, you know. They wanted to stop me from asking questions, you know. That was Brian Hillman and Chris Mertz. I've got print screens and movies on that, you know. Another here comment, and another possible motive for murder. I said the big prize and a real strong motive for murder is the secret $1 million underground home in my backyard, said to have been built in 1987 with a budget on permit for $7.35 million. I said that because all the permit records got accidentally deleted, you know. This is where it's believed the oil show parties were held and where a young girl was murdered in October 2010. My friend Angie told me about. She was afraid to report it and said high-level police were at the party. It was called the Safe House Project and put in for the Bushes, who are from Midland. Of course, George H.W. Bush is no longer alive, and George W. Bush hasn't lived here for 20 years. Multiple people are documented saying it's here, which includes a recent candidate for Midland Sheriff, and supporting evidence was found on old Google Maps. So we know it's here. You know, I mean, how stupid can you be? Of course it's here. You can see, it was right there in the backyard. You could go to Google Maps and you could see it on their map screen right in my backyard, you know. And then you could see where they cut that ditch behind Home Depot. And what was going on is the people at those show parties, which included the police, the high-level police, were parking in the Home Depot parking lot, going underground, coming in this tunnel right there, and then coming over to my house in my backyard's one of them $1 million underground homes that's put in for the Bushes. And then all these people are documented saying it's here. So like I said, obviously it's here, you know. I mean, that's all there is to it. And that's a very good motive for murder. Somebody wants my property, you know. They've tried to terrorize me from my home. That's a violation of the Hobbs Act. They want me to sell my home to cover up their crimes and murders. The former boyfriend of the ex-wife posted this to his Facebook in 2020, saying that he overheard her planning my murder with her police friends to steal life insurance. I had found out in 2013 that Detective Rosie Rodriguez and the ex-wife were lifelong friends and had gone to elementary and junior high together. Rosie met me at the 7-Eleven minutes after I was shot. I'd crawled out on my hands and knees. And then she said she wasn't there. She lied. She also proven to tampered with the evidence, falsified police reports, and perjured herself in court. She personally closed my case and called this failed murder an accident for her friend, for her lifelong friend. Here's Arthur Welch's message posted on Facebook. Law enforcement could subpoena that and say, yep, he posted that. They could talk to Arthur Welch, you know. Cops were recorded hiding evidence and laughing about this man being shot. I was dating this guy's ex-wife when I overheard her talking, and from the things I heard, she tried to have him killed for insurance money. And to hear how many police were involved, one her longtime personal friend. I won't let Buddy Webb be laughed at. Her final words were to me, "I'll have you shot too." So that's the former boyfriend, the ex-wife. So there's just some motives for murder of what's going on in my house, and the crimes are still going on. I heard somebody in my attic today. This is Buddy Webb, Midland, Texas.